Hey there, Ryan Reynolds here. It's a new year, and you know what that means. No, not the diet. Resolutions. A way for us all to try and do a little bit better than we did last year. And my resolution, unlike big wireless, is to not be a raging and raise the price of wireless on you every chance I get. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited. See mintmobile.com for details.
Kroger Delivery has one mission: to deliver the freshest food right to your door. That's why our drivers are pros. Our trucks are refrigerated. And when it comes to low prices, we always deliver. With $20 off your first order of $75 or more, there's no better time to get in on the action. Mission accomplished. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
Welcome to I Don't Need an Acting Class with Milton Justice.
So we're talking about theme, and I love when you say everything should fall behind the theme and fall in place with the theme. This is when you are approaching a role. Am I correct? You're approaching a play. You are to study that play, read it until you've kind of gotten the theme. At this point, do you want to discuss with the director or anybody,
Oh my God! If only, if only. I seriously, I had this with. I said to Caleb, I don't have time to talk to you because he was at work and then he was going to rehearsal. I said, look, I don't have time to talk to you, but you're slightly stranded. And I said, you're such a nice boy that you are worried that you don't want to offend anybody since you've already done that in the first play you did. All of you may, listen, these are such typical mistakes. Chris Carmack and I were living together. We moved up to California and he came back from an audition. He said, well, I don't think I'll ever be auditioning for him again. And I said, why? And he said, yeah, well, he said, first of all, and he was auditioning for a movie called The League of Something Gentlemen. He said, so I said to the casting director, he said, it's like a father-son relationship. And the casting director said, no, it's not. And then the casting director said, as an actor, and Chris said to him, you're going to discuss acting with me? And so he was very young. I think he was 19. He wasn't even out of college yet. And so, it was sort of like, and he learned, and when he came home, he said, I think I probably won't be auditioning for him again. And he never did. So look, yes, in the best of all possible worlds, you want to be able to discuss it with the director, but I am just telling you something. The conversation I had with Caleb was, you've worked very hard, you know the social circumstance, you know about everything connected to the play. Nobody else in the play seems to. And I said, you've made a character choice, and now you find out the actress who's come in, who's clearly not done as much research as you have. Yes, the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen has now come in with her idea of the character and the idea of your character. And so then we went through a whole scenario about how you handled that. And because you're not from Oklahoma, are you, Giona? Oh, you are? Okay, so I'm from Texas. So you know how full of shit we are. Okay, so I said, so this is how you handle this. God, that's such a good idea. It's really... Oh, you know what? It makes me think. And then I'll tell them my idea, the one I've decided on. Or another thing is, wow. So I may be going down the wrong road totally, but what I was thinking was, and maybe, Douglas incidentally needs to learn this. Douglas's problem is he knows they don't, and he talks to them as if they don't know. I'm just sure of it, which is exactly what Caleb did in the first play he did. The director said to Caleb in the first play he did, you're very difficult to work with. So I said, all right, we're going to work on that. Believe it or not, we're going to work on that. And I said, because you don't want anybody to think you're difficult to work with. Sorry. You want everybody to be dying to work with you. So the second play he did, despite the fact he knew it wasn't a very good play, and despite the fact that he knew nobody else had any idea what they were doing, he was totally charming and they just adored him. And so with this play, the assistant director said to him, you are so much fun. It's just such a joy to have you in this cast. And I said to him, you have come so far in just 6 months. I said, you've gone from you're very difficult to work with to you are such a joy. And I said, but okay, so now we have other things to work on. I mean, everything is like, there's so many elements. There's so many elements. Greg is absolutely convinced that the reason that the two of them, who are wonderful, who did not get into this evening of scenes, was because the woman directing it, I had worked with them on a scene from Eastern Standard, which was a really fun Richard Greenberg play. And so they went in with it. I said, don't use too many props, but they had like a bar with a couple of props. And so Caleb went over to the bar and didn't take a drink and then turned to Greg. And so the woman directing it said, yeah, well, just some sort of things. You went to the bar and didn't take a drink. And Caleb turned to her and said, it was a choice. And so Greg said, and that's the reason we didn't get in. And Caleb said, no, it isn't. That's not the reason we didn't get in. And I said, yes, it is. Said, it's an evening of scenes. They have one night to put it together. Who wants to work with an actor who's going to give you trouble? So
what I like about what you said is that in between what he went through the first time is difficult to a pleasure, because that has technically more to do with the business of show business than acting, and he didn't lose his integrity of what he was doing with his work.
Yeah.
And that, to me, is the most important part of that. By the way, something that I know you've heard, and Dion, is that how you pronounce your name? Forgive me. Is sometimes, when you're working with the director, you say, yes, and then you do what you want.
Yeah. That's what I told Kira Sedgwick. Kira Sedgwick got me out of class. It was a 9:00 class when she was doing Born on the 4th of July. And she said, somebody came into my class and they said, so sorry, I picked up the phone in the office. But it's Kira Sedgwick and she's calling you from the set. And she said it was important. So I said, all right. So I left the class. And she said, okay, so here's the thing you have to understand. There are actually 3 directors on this movie. And I said, really? And she said, well, there is Oliver Stone. And she said, and there's Tom Cruise. And there's Ron Kovic, who wrote the book the movie was based on. And I said, and she said, and they're all giving me notes. So she told me the scene and she said, Tom told me I should be really bitchy. And I said, well, Tom told you should be really bitchy because it'll make him look good. And so then anyway, she said to me, what should I do? And I said, well, thank them individually for the note they gave you. It was exactly what you were looking for. I said, and then do it the way we rehearsed it. And I said, one of 2 things will happen. In the editing room, someone will probably say, God, she got that moment. I gave it to her. She listened to me and she got that moment. Or somebody else will say, God damn it, she never got that moment. And they're in the middle of shooting. It's the middle of the night and you were hired. So, but listen, Diona, I mean, Douglas is right. The course called The Business of Show Business is such, it's like you cannot even figure it out because it's always a matter of learning. I mean, I'm constantly amazed, and I've gotten in so much trouble before you have no idea. I can't tell you how many times. I can't believe I have. No, seriously, I can't believe I had a career because of some of the stupid things that I've done. And you just learned along the way.
You're very lucky when you find people who actually want to collaborate outside of their ego. If they're challenged, like if a director's challenged by what you do, I don't think that's such a bad thing as long as the challenge is creative and not something that, you know, their whole being.
And that's really difficult.
I've gotten a director that said, please, like, let's discuss the play before rehearsal. And so is that, what are you...
Well, I mean, look, it's good if they're smart and if they know what they're doing and if they know, but it's really difficult. You have to translate everything into something actable that moves it out of being an essay. A lot of people can talk about what a play is about. There is a floor, practically, at Columbia University. I swear, at any rate, I do know it has a half a dozen aisles filled with theses on Death of a Salesman or Arthur Miller. One after the other, after the other, after the other, after the other, and not one of these people could act in it. Because it's different. I mean, the thing about it is the ability to analyze, and listen, this is all so wonderful. I mean, listen, the fact that we're talking about the Depression, the fact that we're talking about Joe Bonaparte being in the Depression, and the fact that, but we know as actors that the fact has to be turned into the experience of the fact. I mean, I've started on a chapter of it, and it's just impossible to write it. So I do, because I'm a teacher director, so I do, in the midst of the essay, will say to you things like, which means what? Or, and that makes you do what? Or, and that makes you think what? Or, what does that mean?
I Don't Need an Acting Class is hosted and created by Milton Justice. Senior producer is me, Walker Vreeland. Director of online media is Evan Solers. And music by Shagoi. I Don't Need an Acting Class is brought to you by WeAudition.com, a full-service online platform for actors. Sign up today and get 25% off when you use the code ActingClass. Again, the website is called WeAudition.com. We'll see you back here next week.